Hi everybody, it's the Week in the Tackle podcast, the podcast where we get together on a weekly basis and tackle things that we thought were interesting. Now, you'll notice we didn't do a show on Tuesday like we usually do because me, Tom Rennie, I've been, I was ready to do the show, frankly, don't blame me, but Brian Dunny Dunseth over here has been on the national television covering Camp Cupcake, which I'm led to believe we like saying and Dunny likes saying, but apparently everyone at USA hates it, so we're going to run with it because it's super fun. So, Dunny, we thought we'd do a quick 10 minutes to find out how Camp Cupcake was. How are you, Cupcake?
I'm great, Rennie. I froze my little off. Sorry, Tim, down there in Fort Lauderdale and Orlando. I know you guys are in the midst of all the weather. You're getting all the storms that are blowing off the East Coast and freezing your tails off. And windy, so windy that Newcastle can't even get on an airplane and depart their airport without the threat of something bad happening. But it was cold. I mean, so when you pack for Florida, you know, I think I'm gonna have my sneakers on, look fresh. I'm gonna have some pants, like nice, brand new shirts, brand new jackets. And I got there, and oh my God, I was underprepared. Thankfully, the game was in the afternoon in Fort Lauderdale. The 3-1 win against Venezuela. Patrick Agyemang, the three players I predicted, Schulte, Luna, Agyemang, all starred. So that was good because when you put it on Bleacher Report, it gets a lot of eyeballs. Agyemang looking a little bit different. He's got like that Emmanuel Adebayor type of body type, which is different than what the other kind of player profiles look like for the top. He had 2 goals, couple assists, drew a penalty. Jack McGlynn from Philly, he got extraordinary left foot. He's got this big kind of Pogba-esque gait, smacks the ball really cleanly. Mihailovic, who was at CF Montreal, wasn't playing, played a men's league game, changed his name, punched somebody, got kicked out, lost his contract, went down to Newell's Old Boys. He then made the move to Huracan. He was probably the biggest surprise of the camp. Big personality. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but certainly a player that could do some really, really interesting things. And I know we'll talk about big balls, Diego Luna, and even Emeka Nelly, Schulte, Stefan. I thought there was a couple of really impressive players. But when I got to Orlando, did the Disney for 2 days, and then woke up on game day and realized that, thank God, there were premium outlets within 5 minutes of an Uber drive because I was freezing. And I was able to pop over to Tommy Hilfiger, get 2 items of clothing that were basically 25 cents on the dollar. I was nice and cozy, didn't wear the beanie, didn't wear the gloves, looked sharp on camera, and was part of what I think will be iconic U.S. men's national team history. When we got to ask him about Diego Luna and his quote, "He's got big balls," I was immediately knew that was going to be in the folklore of whatever quotes that were laid at the feet of Mauricio Pochettino going forward.
Well, funnily enough, something happened to me this week, which was really fun. So I love tidbits, as you know. I would do my own podcast on tidbits if I could, the stupid stories of the week, and have some fun with them. We do a tidbits feature on our football show on Sirius XM FC. So I scanned through like Reddit and the weird pages and like, what can I find? Organically, I started watching a video and it was like, oh, it's Pochettino there looking incredibly cold in not enough coat, which I thought was excellent. And I thought, I know that guy next to Pochettino, not that one, just one more over. I know that guy. His face looks incredible. Is it the Bride of Wildenstein? No, she's dead. It was Brian Dunseth. I found you organically this week in my search for tidbits and news and info that isn't just about Man United. And it was an excellent. So we joked before about you and Pochettino are going to be big friends. I can sense a bromance in the air. As long as the USA like don't lose like 7-0 on a regular basis and you have to like slag him off on national TV, I can see this being a fun, supportive relationship. But you spoke to him at the table. You're having a bit of fun. I mean, tell us about the TV at the table stuff and tell us about your interactions with him and the team across the last few days.
Yeah, so I'll start with the interactions. This is the 3rd camp that we've been a part of Mauricio Pochettino's new staff, with Jesus, with Mickey, with Tony, with Sylvia, with Seba, with everybody involved, Gianni. And they're really good people, man. Like, so we show up to practice, and because we're covering the game, usually after 15 minutes, everyone leaves and they're like warm up and whatever. It's just the national quick coverage. And then we get to stay and we get to watch training and we get to see what the starting 11 looks like. And we get to watch set pieces. And basically we've been given the insight to be able to talk about what we've seen as reference points during the game. And this is what we're looking for. This is what we're not looking for. Um, but then for Mauricio, we had to earn his trust. And I can remember very specific in Austin, Texas, before the Panama game. He invited us into lunch afterwards, and this is with the full team, and everybody leaves, and we're having lunch with, we eat our lunch. He puts together, usually it's like a coach and like the PR person.
Mm.
He puts together the four tables, and like, here's his staff, here's our staff. And we just talk. And he's like, basically, like, listen, guys, I've never done this before. We never do this in Europe. Um, so I'll give you what you're asking for. We'll do this, but like, if you burn me, like, it's done. Like, I have to trust you. So we've earned his trust over the last couple of months. Um, so again, similar situation. He's like, I got these obligations. Let's do lunch. We'll have the conversation. He's fantastic. His staff, whether it's Mickey or it's Jesus or Tone, like they walk around, and this is where Poach is really, really smart. So all the media members line up. He doesn't go straight to the field. He goes and he shakes everybody's hand. And it's just like there's equity being earned because obviously everybody knows Mauricio Pochettino and the success he's had at the domestic level.
Mm.
Now, he's creating these organic relationships with the media, just really intelligent. And then with us, he's what's on record, what's off record, having the insight of performances of training that we weren't there. And like, it's really, really cool, but it's just fun to see the playfulness, but then when he's on the field. And we used vibes, and I think vibes was really weaponized against the group and weaponized versus
Yeah.
Berhalter, but it's a completely different feel. And when you get on the field, like lock in, like lock in, and the intensity and the yelling and the screaming and the competition, it's there. And it's the same thing that was there with, I'll use the first team versus this group of players. He was really impressed with, I think, the technical level and the mentality of this group, because obviously you're not really sure because it's the first time you're working with a group of guys that you're not maybe on a first name basis with. The application of what they were trying to do. Obviously, they scored 6 goals in 2 games against a very similar level of player that are, it's outside of international window. So this is like the next Olympic under 20 and Olympic group coming through, and the professionals that are, whether that be at Caracas or that be at Saprissa, the big clubs or whatever. And so ultimately, I think what we've seen is his implementation was very similar of building out 3 in the back, people rotating, different movement. He wants a true number 10. He's a big advocate of playmakers being playmakers and then finishers being finishers. The goalkeepers union was strong between Schulte and Stefan. I think they'll be both involved in the March window. But guys like Ajiman, McGlynn,
Mm.
Diego Luna, Amekanelli from Real Salt Lake was superb and kind of that shuttler of a 6. I think post-match, he was saying, these guys have made my life difficult because these 2 performances have given me a lot to think about when trying to I use my fingers, like integrate what the group was in October, November window and what potentially the March window looks like for Nations League semifinals and finals in LA. But Diego Luna's performance, he's the true 10. Like,
Mm.
he's different than an Aronson or a Pulisic or a Gio. He's got this very combative mentality where came through the San Jose Earthquake system. They didn't choose him. He gave the double birds. He went to a place called El Paso. In El Paso, USL team at 16, 17 years old, was outstanding for a year, got the move to Real Salt Lake, left off the Olympic team unceremoniously. You've heard my banter and my frustration with this. There's
Yeah.
nobody, I think it's a travesty. There's no one that will ever explain to me the right conclusion to leave him off that roster. He was named an MLS All-Star, 2024 Young Player of the Year for Major League Soccer. He earned every opportunity to be a part of this group. Had a little bit of a knee. I think he would have started the Venezuela game, but he had a little bit of a knock in the beginning. They were saving him. And then he gets the start. 10 minutes in, takes an arm into the face, breaks his nose. You can see them popping his nose back into place.
Oh,
They
awful.
stuff it back in. I'm
Oh.
asking in real time for them to show this at halftime. It's called a nasal reduction. RSL's medical staff was stoked that I got it in post game. And you can see them literally pop it back into place and blood.
Oh.
Mauricio helps him get his shirt on. Ask him, like, can you play? He goes, like, don't even think about taking me off. Doctor says, okay. And that's where the conversation was at post game, where he's talking about the personality. And
Yeah.
I think this is what he wanted to see. Like it's performance, it's technical ability, but there's like a mentality. He wanted to see guys like Jack McGlenn. He wanted to see guys like Ajiman. He wanted to see guys like Diego Luna just show that, yeah, you're talented, but like you got this monster mentality. And I think that's what Diego Luna showed. Monster mentality, went back out there, took another hit to the face with a broken nose, ended up coming off at halftime. But the moment he stepped on the field, 2 touches, great way to the pass, split 3 players, put Brian White in, he scored. And then that's where Pochettino said, what will be, I think, one of the most classic bylines ever for a U.S. men's national team coach, Diego Luna, he's got big balls. And we busted up laughing. And immediately, Poch was like, you could see like the fear of God in his face. Like, did I say the curse? Did I go too far? And he's like, no, a good characteristic, good personality. And we were howling laughing at that point. And that just shows you like he's a real dude. And it probably overshadowed him maybe having a Ted Lasso-esque moment where he had to run to the bathroom in the middle of the game. He missed the second goal. I think he had a little bit of bubble guts that he had to take care of. But
We've all been there. We've all been there. To be
hey,
fair,
man,
American food is very testing on the system if you're not used to it. It's
we're
the
trying to
portions are
kill
too
everybody.
big, everything's too greasy, everything's too salty. It's mainly inedible. I don't know how you survive. God bless you for it. Tell us a bit more about that bit though, because I love it when things like that happen in broadcast. Can you
Yeah.
say big balls? This is like when
Oh, yeah.
I always tell this when I was doing that show with Rodney Marsh, one of the first shows I did with Sirius, and he said bollocks. And you cannot say bollocks in England in the same way like you can't say wanker. I've
Yeah.
noticed that's not been bleeped out this podcast before. That's banned over here. That's quite a big one actually over here compared to I've seen it being played on daytime TV on a Simpsons episode by
Yeah.
accident. You just let the wankers fly, apparently. But then Rodney said bollocks, and I literally was like expecting a dump button and there to be like management coming in the room and
Apologies.
we've got to apologize. And everyone was like, what's the matter? And I was like, oh, we can just press on, can we? It wasn't great when I said later, but beyond that, it was fine. So
That's
what
why you
did
got to
you
say sorry, Tim. You got to
Oh,
say
sorry,
sorry,
Tim.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tim. We're throwing
Yeah.
sorry Tims in. Oh, it's only a short show. But did you? So that's fine. He knew you. He didn't know, but you knew it'd be fine. Is it
Well,
fine?
he didn't. I think it was, obviously they're still lost in translation. There's certain words that I grew up with, being called on a daily basis in Spanish that like nowadays in 2023 to 25, like that's a no-fly zone. You can't say that word. I remember there was a Colombian slang couple of words that one of my friends would call me. And I remember one day, like we were in a Colombian restaurant and I said, adios. And I said the 3 words back to him. And he was like, no. He like this.
No.
And everybody like turned to me and they're like, yo, you can't say that, white boy. Like, what are you doing? You can't say that.
Yeah.
Like, and so, in that moment, I think.
But you can be loud for this sort of thing, can't you? I mean, this is.
I think saying balls
general.
is that like everybody ran with it. Like U.S. Soccer tweeted the video of it. It was all over social. I mean,
it's great. It's a great
between
video.
Max Brados and Tommy Bogert and everybody around. Like, my phone was I had it in my back pocket. My phone was just, and it was like, oh my god, what a legendary response. And he's right. Like it's every like the descriptiveness of that perfectly matched kind of the competitiveness and the aura that is Diego Luna. And I sent Diego a message afterwards, and because he went straight to the hospital after the match, they broke his nose again, put it in place, set it with plaster. He looked like, he had like white strips, like a little Batman mask. And I was in the locker room with Sarah and Bees and everybody, and listening to the commentary up in the booth. We have our little green room set up with our TV so we can hear them. And I was like, they're like, oh, he's got to come off. And I go, oh, he's not coming off.
No.
Like, no, he's coming off. And I was like, I can promise you that Diego Luna is not coming off. Like, that kid is tough as nails. And with this moment and this opportunity playing for Mauricio Pochettino, there's not a fucking chance in the world, sorry, Tim, that he's not going to, at least until halftime, you're going to drag him off the field. Like, even if the doctor tried to say, no, he's not going to go, he's going to look at him and say, I'm fucking playing. Sorry. And that's what we need, those type of characters. Like, we need those type of personalities. So, afterwards, like, we went to break and Mauricio was like, was that okay? Like, like, he's kind of like a little bit nervous. Like, don't worry about it. Bees fell over the desk laughing. Kyle turns around. I'm like cracking up. Melissa's trying to keep the train on the tracks. Like, in our ear, Shaw Brown, our producer, and everyone's like howling, laughing. So yeah, Sarah and everyone, it was great. It was a great
It was
moment.
brilliant.
We were dying laughing. It was perfect.
And I mean, just finally, I know we got a wrap today, but you feel like from the camp that he is endearing himself to the fan base, obviously the broadcasters, the
You're
players
talking
that
about
he's used,
Mauricio.
the players, yeah, Maurizio in general. I mean, this is a big camp for him because it's
Yeah,
probably more relaxed, as you mentioned it earlier, something he's not used to. So
but it's not. It's not. I can tell you that
no,
everything that
but
I saw.
it's more relaxed than Nations League's going to be in
No, no.
terms of the games.
Well,
I mean,
I get
or the World
the.
Cup or whatever.
You're right. The
Pressure
consequences are
free.
the
Yeah.
consequences are much larger, much more like grander of what's going to happen in Nations League, right? But nothing's different. Like I don't know how to say this any like in another way. The what they do like as a coaching staff, like the baseline does not change.
Mm.
Everything that they're asking was like honest to God, you could have put Pulisic and Weston and Tyler and all those guys in this camp. It would have looked the exact same. Now, it would have been visually easier to recognize these guys as opposed to maybe some of the random US fans that turn on and say, like, oh, the US is playing. I'm going to go watch Christian Pulisic play. Like, that's going to be a little bit more, it's going to be loftier expectations. Like, who are these guys? If I'm not, the guys that are European snobs versus, the people that understand MLS. But again,
Mm.
Patrick Agiman from Charlotte is like nothing we have in the system. Luna does it differently than any other number 10. McGlenn's left foot differently than any other player. He's got more of a body type like a Gio Reyna. He kind of like Pogba gallops around the field. Let's see. I'm intrigued by a couple of different of these players, but I think those three and the two backup goalkeepers, Schulte and Stefan, have now like made Matt Turner's life a little bit more difficult if he's not going to get the games.
Right.
So I think a very positive, very beneficial January camp. 2 games, 6 goals scored and combined. 1 game in a transition moment that it was a deflection, had to be a little bit better. But ultimately, I think the U.S. there. I have not seen, read, nor heard one thing that could be antagonistic or negative surrounding the appointment of Mauricio Pochettino so far. I think the sweat equity of the 6 matches so far. Now, obviously, the March window is against Panama and the winner of Canada and Mexico. We've won Nations League the last 3 times, expected to win it again. But I think that there's a couple of guys that made it difficult for this roster to be put together and submitted in late February
Mm.
that I think there are going to be some eyebrows raised because of the performances that we saw in these 2 games in January.
USA against Panama, winner gets the canal. That's the rules.
Sounds like it now.
Dunny, excellent to catch up with you. I'm glad you enjoyed the trip. It was excellent finding you without trying to on Reddit this week.
Yeah,
And
it was for the
people,
right reasons, not for the
yes,
wrong reasons like last time.
last time I found you on Reddit, the comments were less positive, but they were positive this time. Listen, thank you, Dunny. Full program coming for you next week. That was Camp Cupcake Update. That's Brian Dunseth. I'm Tom Rennie. Tim Horsey produced the program. We'll see you next week.